is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and our special guest today is Buzz.
That's right.
Hi, Buzz.
Hello. Are you guys in New York?
Oh, yes, we are. It's been fantastic. It's been pretty brutal, to be honest, but we're getting through it. So.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm in Brooklyn. I like it.
Yeah, honestly, social distancing is not a whole lot different than what I normally do. So.
Well, I wanted to actually start with that because Lydia, myself, we're touring musicians, and I know you're constantly touring. I'm friends with Trevor, and he talks about you. Yeah. And basically, one of your reputations is that not only the bands you're in, but also your general work ethic and how much you do tour. Well, for the three of us, this is kind of a radical shift. I mean, sure, you had your calendar full till who knows when.
But only Buzz is crazy enough to attempt the World Guinness record of 51 show states in 50 days.
51 shows in 51 days, 51 states plus DC. And we did it.
Well, congratulations, my friend.
Trevor said, and you could correct this, Trevor told me that Wyoming was maybe not the weirdest, but was definitely like, how do you find a gig in every state? It's actually not so easy. Correct?
No, it wasn't so easy, but Wyoming was one of the weirder ones, but it was like akin to playing like a VFW hall. It's not tremendously different than how we started out.
There you go. Yeah.
And there was probably 200 plus kids there, so
that's enough.
All
it was
right.
fine. We haven't been back, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't go back.
Fair enough. Wait, which town was this that you played?
Cheyenne. And then it's not that far from Fort Collins. So we always play Fort Collins. So people from Cheyenne just go to that.
There you go.
Are you working on your second solo album?
Yeah, that was supposed to be out right now. And I was supposed to be on tour as we speak. But all that got pushed back till August. And then my tour was just completely canceled. So everything. And
that's that's an acoustic version of you.
Yeah, I did one 6 years ago. That was just me and a guitar, and then I did a whole world tour with just me and a guitar and a sound guy.
How nice is that?
Oh, it was great. It was really great. I didn't know what to expect, so I'm not really one to just jump into something without really investigating it and having it all planned out way in advance. And so I kind of tested the waters with a few things to see if it would work, and then put out an EP with Tom Hazelmeyer to see how that went, and then did all those kinds of things before I put out a full album, and then booked U.S., Europe, Australia tour, and it flew all the way around the world in one go,
Amazing. I love touring by myself, but I also love Tom Hazelmeyer. Thank you for bringing him up.
I talk to Tom at least 5 times a week.
What?
Whoa!
At least. I would say whether it's actually talking or texting, I would say virtually almost every single day.
He's one of my favorite people on the planet. He's so fucking weird. He does such good stuff. He's helped so many people. I love Grumpy's. Food's been heavy, but his artwork is amazing. I recorded with Halo of Flies, which was one of the weirdest experiences of my life, his band. He's just bizarre and wonderful. And we want to pod him as well. So tell him I'm on to him. I'll be coming after him soon.
You two of you have a long relationship with him, not just through Reptile, but as personal friends. The two of you actually are old friends with him. So
I photographed Tom Hazelmeyer's daughter when she was 7 and his gun collection and did a montage called Ghost Girl, which is stunning and one of my favorites. That's what friends are for.
Tom's one of my dear friends.
And you guys, what I'm getting at is the two of you connect with him beyond the music. You get connected with him as a human being.
We talk about everything. There's probably not a whole lot in my life that I don't discuss with Tom in one form or another, and vice versa. His opinion on anything is always going to have some element I hadn't thought of. And those are the people you listen to because you're always going to learn something from that guy.
He's a great graphic designer. I identify with, the redneck in me identifies because he has a bit of a redneck aspect, which I really like about him. He's stubborn. He's a bull. He has the same kind of work ethic we have. And Fantômas Reptile is a great label. I'm glad they're still around.
Yeah.
So I'm going to connect a thread here, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know Lydia is one of the most loyal persons if she knows you. And based on your relationship that you're explaining with Tom, you guys have a real loyalty. So maybe Is that part of his thing? Like a loyalty, a connection, and then like really like, let's go further with this. Because what I'm getting at, you do the festival every year, correct?
Yeah, we've done it, I think, every single year. Yeah.
And is that just coincidence, or you say, okay, Tom's my good buddy, and I'm going to just make sure I do this every single year?
We usually tour in the summer, and I'll ask him when he wants to do it, and we'll just set it up to where we can just drive into town from Fargo or wherever in line with the tour that we're doing.
Well, that's where we met last, Buzz, was at the Reptile Summer Festival. We haven't met that many times before.
No. I'm difficult. I'm really bad at networking. I'm terrible at it.
We're always that's but one time we did meet is when you and I guess Mike Patton as well, curating All Tomorrow's Parties, invited one of the Teenage Jesus reunions.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Right. Oh yeah, of course. That was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I ended up having a massive falling out with the guys that ran that festival. Not then, but after that. So.
Well, didn't they kind of ran out of money and resources, and they were kind of, was it, only what I've read, because I never actually played it, but it was kind of a Ponzi scheme kind of thing. They were kind of shifting, and then suddenly, was it the 2007 crisis, or I don't know, correct me, I don't know, but like something, it all came to a head, right?
It was a very good festival while it went on, All Tomorrow's Parties. It had very interesting people, but it's just so much work. I mean, it's unimaginable that something isn't going to fuck up eventually, and who's going to get fucked? Us. I didn't, but the artist.
We didn't lose a bunch of money, but I just had massive disagreement with them about how we were being treated. And I was just like, I'm not good at, I'll just walk. I'm just like, no, I don't care. I'm not going to let you treat me like that. And that's it. You might be able to do that with other people who are impressed with you, but I just don't care.
But there's no reason for disrespect.
No, I can't imagine doing it. There's one other time where we almost came to that with them on a different time before that, when they were like, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be, you guys are going to play with Sonic Youth and Iggy Pop, or the Stooges, and we're going to put you guys on, or Sonic Youth's going to play, the Stooges are going to play, and then you're going to play. I was like,
no way.
That's not happening. Well, that's what we want to do. I go, no, no, I will not. You think I'm going to leave? It's like you think that I'm stupid enough to go on after the Stooges? No, I'll just cancel it now. Just take us off. I refuse to do it. You have to do it. I go, I don't have to do anything. I'm not doing it. No way. And so we ended up playing right before the Stooges, which is like, okay, there you go. And Sonic Youth went on after the Stooges. And I thought it was a massive mistake.
And they accepted it. So look, it wasn't their first massive mistake. Let's admit it.
Honestly, I don't know. I'll take your word for it.
I think All Tomorrow's Party I've done more than anybody, which I'm very happy, under many different auspices. But one of my favorites, and you worked with them and made a great album, Crystal Fairy, Omar Rodriguez Lopez. I had been talking about Mars Lopez for months. Nobody cared. I'm like, I was obsessed with them. And then Lee Ronaldo said, they're inviting you to a festival. And I'm like, what? And it was All Tomorrow's Parties. And I'm like, why did you guys invite me? And they said, spoken word. Here's two boys that are so tiny and talented, though. They could both fit inside my body. I loved Mars Volta. They were one of my favorite bands. Crystal Fairy is you with Omar and Terry Genderbender from La Boucherette. It's a great combination and quite diverse music.
That was one of my favorite things I've ever done. And it's too bad it just never continued. I mean, that was me and a drummer from the Melvins, Dale, and those two. And actually, it really started with me, Dale, and her. Okay. And then we added him later. But I've never been in a situation where we would write a song, and as we're working it out, she would finish the lyrics and then record the lyrics.
Perfect.
Like
cool.
Minutes later,
Cool.
It was crazy, the whole record like that. Mm. And it just, they were, it's a long story, but it's not didn't end well. I mean, let me put it that way.
I find that Mars Volta are kind of plagued. How was it working with another guitar player?
I never have any problem with
especially one who's so, over the top.
Well, he played bass on the record.
Oh, he played bass. Okay, there we go. That made it easier.
He did a great job. I thought they both did an unbelievably amazing job on the whole thing. We had toured with the Butcherettes. That's how we got to know them. And I just thought Terry was extraordinary. And I loved the way that she was on stage. And I thought she was super talented. And I wanted to make music with her.
A very powerful female force, yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that much. And when I do, I'm very excited about it.
Did this formula just kind of happen naturally in terms of just okay, here's the lyric, we're going, that's it? Or were you working through the process for a while and then you found out this was the most efficient and pragmatic approach?
No, we hardly worked on it at all. It was like, I would have an idea for a song, like, let's say, and it would just be us three, me, Dale, and her, and it would be like, okay, I have this idea. I'm showing Dale, I'm working it out, and she'd just be sitting in the room listening to what we're doing, And by the time we got done working out the song to where we had it, to where we could track it, because we were doing it in our studio, she would have the lyrics done. It would maybe be 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Melody, everything. So then we would lay down the drums, get it, because, you guys have all recorded, I've recorded tons and tons of records, and I've come to realize that a lot of times, once somebody, like especially a drummer, once they figure out the song, if you hammer it for another 2 months in the rehearsal studio, it kind of beats the life out of it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
If they're playing it at the edge of their ability and they just have it just then, you're going to get something that you're not going to normally get out of somebody.
It's funny because Rod Stewart claims that's how he made all his hits back in the days, kind of just coming in with faces and just like, okay, I'm just going to write a lyric and a melody and let's just do it. So,
yes. Yeah. And so then I would do a scratch guitar. And she'd go, okay, I'm ready. And so then she'd have a scratch guitar to sing along to and the drums. And then she would just put down the vocals. And then I think it was the first time anyone had ever produced her as vocals. So okay, let's do a double track of your vocals. She'd never done a double track vocal ever. She'd never done.
Okay.
We're like,
right. Well, there you go. Well, so it's a collision of a lot of ideas, and it's amazing. And that is, I always find the artist thing is, if you have experience when these things arrive, like just seizing the moment and just doing it. I want to go back to ATP and the two of you, and you work with Mike Patton and Matt, whole thing. So when Fantômas started, did you have a relationship with him already, or did he just cold call you and said, hey, I have this idea?
Mr. Bungle was fans of ours right about the time he was MTV poster boy, like, I don't know, 89 maybe, when he was.
There are so many flukes in rock. It's just amazing.
I know this now better because I know those guys now, and I know Trevor really well, and Trevor's played with us a bunch, and I've often said that the best thing I got out of Fantômas was my relationship with him. That is way beyond music, so that's really incredible for me, that kind of thing. But Mr. Bungle, the band that they had before Faith No More, he was in Faith No More. Because of his gigantic success in Faith No More, they were offered a deal on Warner Brothers. I think it's the same as Slash or whatever it was. And so because Mike was a huge property at that point, they were willing to do, well, we'll let you do your other band as well. No problem. Okay. They really liked our band and asked us to play a bunch of shows with them. That's how I met them. So we played a bunch of shows with them. And those were some of the worst received I've ever been as a band.
Because the Mr. Bungle fans didn't
hated
us. They hated you.
They just hated us. It's brutal. It was brutal. And there was one show in particular in Anaheim where I think it was about 3,000 people in the round. And they just brutally assaulted us throughout the entire set. Some people said to me later, you guys got booed off stage. I go, no. They booed until we left the stage.
Well,
they didn't leave because they were booing. We walk off that show and it was just brutal. We walk off the show, I go into the dressing room and Patton and those guys are sitting back there and they have their set list in their hand. And Patton just shreds the set lists, and they make a new set list. And all it says on the set list is tonight they will pay. That's it.
Well, that's some blessing. It's funny. So maybe the common denominator here is Trevor, because Trevor told me that Fantômas opening for Tool got the same response on certain nights. Maybe he's the threat on this.
Because we all know it is better to be hated for the right reasons than loved for the wrong reasons.
You just play another show.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was really odd to play those shows with those guys because he was MTV poster boy and he always wore a mask. So the girls or whoever were there to see him as a result of his MTV. Because I don't know if you guys are aware, but Mr. Bungle's is not really a bright and breezy pop tunes band. They certainly don't sound like Faith No More. Yet they were packing these places because of Faith No More. So that was all very odd. And there was a lot of confusion at those shows. So they did that show. It was total white noise. They have no idea who Patton is because there's so many people on stage. And at some point during the show, he goes out there with this giant eyedropper thing. It's like big, like with a bulb on it and like a nipple sort of thing on it. drops his pants, shoves it up his ass, squeezes it into his ass, turns around and blasts an enema into the audience.
All right.
I think that's the best thing I've ever heard Mike Patton do artistically.
Totally.
That's great.
And
Kudos to him.
I've never heard a word about it. Now it would be all over the internet, you know what I mean? But in those days, it was just like, those things happen, and if you didn't hear about it, you could just say that didn't happen. But I saw it with my own eyes.
Or it happened. We all know in the classic opening band thing, when the headliner, there's a dog. If a band has a certain level of success, a certain percentage of the fans have this kind of. There's a thing where there's a dogma where like they're so in love with this band they love, and then out of spite or whatever it is, they don't like the opening band or they don't like other bands, and so I feel like it's kind of like. Oh, we're siding with the headliner by being brutal on this opening act and whatever.
We probably chose the opening act.
Well,
the headliner.
Well, that happens too. But let me ask this. With the Melvins, if you've been in that position where people were opening for you and they're being booed off and you have to react to that.
We're weird enough as far as that's concerned that our audience hasn't really given too many people too much trouble. I mean, there might be a couple of drunk people, but basically not 98% of the audience. Usually they're very patient. We're doing,
But wait, Buzz, you were never the poster boy for MTV?
No, as much as I try,
My problem is no one will let us open for them. I would love to be hated. You want to boo me? Excuse me, I got the mic. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. We did a lot of that kind of thing, especially in the 90s. And we got to the point where we were just like, we're tired of trying to sell the band like that.
Yes. Well, I'm here to open for you, Buzz. I'm actually, if you could see what I was doing from my waist down, I was very open for you right now.
We have a lot of fun. We do a lot of that kind of stuff, and I'm open to anything. So, but now, I mean, for us to go out on a tour like that, opening for somebody else, it would have to. The only reason I would do it is if they were paying us enough money to make me do it.
And who would it be? Who would you even? I mean, look, I don't mind opening for anybody. I like to go on first. I'd go on at 9 a.m. and get it over with. Doesn't matter to me. I
would love to play every show at noon.
Exactly.
Get a way better show.
I'll go on at 9. You go on at noon.
Exactly. Done. We have to talk the clubs into doing it. I'm down. You play the show, then you drive to the next city that night instead of.
I'm an evangelical. I'll go on early morning.
Well, you could do it in Berlin, where the clubs, like the late shift clubber things, start at like 11 a.m., 12, or no, 4 p.m. is the late shift of the night before. Yeah, you can do that.
You've released almost since your inception, almost an album every year.
At least.
Some years you might have missed 1 or 2 years. Then you did 2 or 3 records in 1 year.
But it would be something else would come out, like Fantômas or some other thing we were doing. There would always be something. And
it's not all the same. I mean, I'm going to describe Melvins as heavy, very rock, a bit of humor in there, some horror, post-grunge, post-punk, experimental, but you can't really nail it down because it's not always the same thing.
No, we often describe it as Captain Beefheart playing heavy metal.
That's all right.
All right, there you go.
The closest I can come to it. And I didn't realize that at first, and I realized, that's what we're doing. That's really what we're doing. We've recorded and released, including cover songs, well over 500 songs. So it's just like, now it's just the hardest part is just trying to figure out what to do. That's it. Not so much can we do it. Once you're centered on it, then it's like it's easy to do it. But coming up with ideas, like a couple years ago, we did a record where we always wanted to do a soundtrack, so we just made a soundtrack even though there wasn't a movie. Yeah. And then we included it, made a double album of it. One's a soundtrack the way we would do a soundtrack, and the other's a normal album.
What is that called?
Walk with Love and Death. And then we put it together, and me and this friend of mine from Atlanta made the 33-minute movie to go along with the soundtrack that came first.
There you go.
So it's just stuff like that. Once let's do that, And actually, the soundtrack record was harder to make than the regular record, But just trying to figure out something, or like, let's do all 50 states plus DC in 51 days. Okay, let's do it. Let's figure out how we're going to do that.
You got to keep yourself amused. You got to keep yourself amused, and also, I mean, if you have musical schizophrenia, you want to exercise it. Yeah,
I don't feel like there's anything we couldn't do as far as that's concerned. And I feel, honestly blessed in that. The guys I play with are, I consider them incredible musicians, and I am like the luckiest person on earth to be able to write a song and have those two guys play on it. Stephen McDonald and Dale I think are the best rhythm section. It's sort of like I put it down to how Pete Townsend had it so good. He's writing songs for John Entwistle and Keith Moon, I mean, that's just insane. That's just like, okay, you got paid.
Led Zeppelin really talks about Page and Plant. Let's be honest. I mean, it's the rhythm section.
Yeah, you're writing songs for those guys and turning it over to them, and it's like all you have to do is get out of their way. Just get out of their way. Let them do their job.
Let's talk about something besides the musical element to do what you're doing. So 51 shows in 51 days. There's a level of admin and logistical skills that you have to be able to pull that off yourself, especially at the level of independence that you work at. And then, of course, you need to find the musicians that are not just good musicians that actually can see that through with you. It's kind of interesting as the industry transformed and goes into a more independent thing and people are crying about it. Am I wrong that your success and your reality improved with the internet and file sharing and allowed you to be more independent on every single level, not just recording, distribution, but all admin, all logistical independence, which of course it requires skills in these things. But
we did 3 records for Atlantic. We got signed to Atlantic Records in 92 or 93. And we thought that it wasn't never going to work. We thought it was ridiculous, but we were like, sure. No. And then we always had the idea that they were going to do one album and then we would be moving on. That would be the end of it. It wasn't, this is it for us. It's like, I just never thought that was the level we were going to go on. We don't have the MTV, kind of wounded junkie look that most of the people that get really famous on there have. We just weren't those guys, and I just didn't see that happening for us. And so we just viewed it as an offshoot of what we were doing. And if we were going to do it, we were going to sign with a huge record label like Atlantic. I think we should be on the same record label as Aretha Franklin and the Stones and Led Zeppelin, absolutely. And then the funny thing was, as soon as those labels were interested in us, then every indie label who never paid attention to us also sent us contracts. We were like, where were you when we needed you? No, we're going to go with the big label, So we just figured it was not going to work out. When they wanted to do 3 albums in the end, by the time we got done with them, they had done 3 albums. No one was more surprised than us. It's like, okay, that sounds great. And they were, not massively lucrative, but they were a lot more money than we were used to getting. And so we were always very careful with it and operating as if we were going to be out of business in 6 months and that this was all the money we were ever going to get, which I wasn't wrong about that. So we approached it like that. And then when I knew that we were going to get dropped, I just knew it. Instead of waiting for them to do that, I went to Tom Hazelmeyer when we were still under contract to Atlantic and said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to advance us some money. We'll record a new album, for you, because we're going to get dropped off Atlantic. And then we want you to put it out. But we want to have it ready to go almost the second we get dropped, a new album, So we had put out our 3rd album, and then they still had the option that they could have picked up a 4th album. And I go, and if they do that, here's what we'll do. We'll say, okay, great. We'll take the advance. We'll sit on that album, and then we'll pay you back the money out of the advance that you gave us, and then we'll just present it to them as our 4th album. So the second we got dropped, that album hit the streets like less than not even 2 months later. And we went on the road then for the next year and a half. And the whole point is that we are not dead. These guys do not have the ability to tell, to make or break whether we're going to continue to be a band or not. We're just as viable now. And actually, we're in a much better position than we were in before we did that. And so
you were in a better position because also when you work with somebody that you can trust, that understands what you do, and you were very lucky in that early 90s period to get whatever they were offering, because we know that time will never come again. But however, Tom Hazelmeyer is still there, and so are other labels like Ipecac. There are other labels still going. There are other ways. And, ultimately, it's who do you fucking trust? And then you go back to who you trust.
If you can find someone that's actually going to pay you for what you're owed, they're as rare as a dodo bird. You better hold them tightly to your chest and don't take it for granted because, the longest distance between 2 points is a indie record label and a band getting a royalty check.
Is a check. But also, look, bands make most of their money touring. You got to be on the road.
We've been lucky in that the first real label we were on was this label in San Francisco called Boner Records. They have paid us everything we did 3 or more albums with them. They have paid us everything we're owed since 1988, every 6 months on every single thing. And so it's like we've had people go, well, you should take those records and put them out somewhere else. I go, why should I take records away from someone who's been so nice to me in a situation where it never happens. Indie labels are a way bigger ripoff than the majors ever were. They just don't ever pay you anything. We could walk with our records anytime we want. Why would I do it? These guys are being cool. The hilarious thing about that is we were done with Atlantic. We'd put out this record with Tom. We toured a bunch. And then, we were kind of wondering what we were going to do next. And then the Fantômas thing come up because I remember you asked me about how that happened. And then they knew me from when we opened up for Mr. Bungle. And so he asked me if I wanted to be involved in that. And I said, sure, that sounds great. It was all Mike Patton's music, which was a nice change for me. Greg Workman, who's the guy that is the main head honcho over Ipecac, which was their manager. And so he's like, I'm going to start looking around and see if I can find a record label to put out the Fantômas record. A bunch of majors were interested until they heard exactly what it was, which is, really schizophrenic sounding music. Doesn't sound anything like what Faith No More sounded like. It's just the exact opposite of all that. And it's really weird. And so we came to this label that I won't say, but they were like, well, we're interested in putting it out. And so we have me, we have Mike, we have Trevor Dunn, we have Dave Lombardo from Slayer in the band. And they go, well, Mike had demos of all the songs that are on the first record that he'd made, full everything. And so they presented them with this label with them, and they go, we're not really sure. We'd have to hear the whole band doing demos. And I was like, demos? What are you talking about? And then at the same time, the same label had expressed some interest in doing some stuff with us. And I was really hesitant. I was like, nah, I'm not really sure I want to do that. And so then the guy comes back and says, this was in 98. Listen, here's where I'm just going to lay it out for you guys right now. We don't want to put out the record out. We couldn't give you any advance for this record, nothing at all. And we just think, bands like the Melvins and Mike Patton, they're on the downhill slide at the bottom of the other side of their careers. And there's just we're trying to do stuff that's newer than that. And there's just no place for you guys. And, we just don't want to be involved in this sort of. And Greg was like, I can't fucking believe that. I go, fuck that guy. And Greg's like, I feel like starting my own label. I go, well, if you start your own label, we'll do records with you guys too. That's it. That day, he found a distributor to put out the first Fantômas record, and knowing that they had them and us, and that guy later, like 5 years later, said, that was the single stupidest business move I've ever made. It's like, duh. That Fantômas record, I don't know how, it's sold way over 100,000 copies almost immediately. It's like, what are you fucking thinking? What a dumbass.
Something that's so weird. Music is schizophrenic. It's bizarre. It flukes into selling all these copies. Who the hell knows why? Where are these weirdo fans? You just never fucking know.
No. And to be that dumb about it, it's like, what kind of an ageist dipshit are you? I mean, it'd be like when I was in 8th grade, the music of my youth was not Jimi Hendrix, but I still loved all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it spoke to me. It didn't matter that the kids my age weren't listening to it. It's like, what? Music reaches across all those barriers. What the hell are you talking about?
You've been quoted to say that you're not into rock musicians being political, and yet wouldn't you argue that you're kind of political just by your independence, just by the positions that you hold, not on a direct level of like, these are my politics, but by your existence and your own reality? Isn't that a kind of a political statement?
I would say it is. I guess if I had to claim what I was, I would say closest to classical liberalism.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't like musicians who golf.
Oh, I golf all the time.
I know you do, and I'm very political. So, but we still find a middle ground somewhere, Buzz.
Well, the golf thing really started with me because there were some rock musician guys I knew that were doing it, and they all. And I said, I'll try it, and then they all have quit because it's not easy to do. And then I kept going. It's about like the last 11 or 12 years, and what I realized is that musicians are people of the great indoors. And it kind of gets me out of the house. So
hey, look, I love whacking balls with sticks. No biggie.
Oh, yeah. Supposedly Kenny G's really good at golf.
Yeah, I golf all the time. But I get up when I'm home. I get up extremely early, and I get up at like 4 a.m, and I have a full day and go to bed early. And
so I'm impressed with that because it seems like you're very productive. You have you have this kind of like regular hours work schedule based on what I researched yesterday. When Bill Clinton was asked, because he's played saxophone, of course, it doesn't even matter, but he has these answers. He's like, well, I didn't go into music because I'm a morning person and not a night person. That was his answer. But have you been a morning person and then you've kind of adapt when you're on the road to being a night person? All right, so it's the 3 touring musicians. Circadian rhythms. Do we actually believe in that shit? I mean, we're so adaptable. Yeah, exactly. We're just saying just go and wake up and do it, right?
Tim, I've seen you sleep under the worst of circumstances in the back of a van, suffering for a hangover that could last 24 more hours.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you this, Tim. Have you ever seen me sleep?
No,
I have.
Really?
I've seen. It's some. So the rule with Lydia when you're on road with her Buzz is she sleeps the least. One of the types that sleeps like 2-3 hours a night types.
Yeah.
And if you're not asleep and everyone else is asleep, then you're sparring with Lydia at that point, which is awesome.
But the thing is, I would never interrupt anybody's sleep because to me, it's so mysterious. Like I study people sleeping, just going, how the fuck are they doing that for 8 hours in a row? I would never. Yeah. To wake somebody up to me is criminal. And trust me, you dare. This is why I asked if Tim's ever seen me sleep. I don't believe he has. Because if you look at me while I'm sleeping, I will wake up and kill you.
It's like the guy in Road Warrior with a twink lover and the motorcycle. Like his eyes just wake up. You know, yeah, that's.
I do sleep. I'm not saying I don't sleep. I mean, I'm very beautiful when I sleep. Good luck finding me there. Anyway.
How did you do Alaska and Hawaii and still stay on consecutive days? Like, you went to Hawaii for one day and went back to like L.A. or. And then you did Alaska to, I'm just curious, to Seattle? Like
I did a lot of thinking about how we were going to do it. And I do that for every tour. Like I'll basically send the routing of the tour to the tour to the tour agent way before, you know, and go, this is the places I want to play. This is the dates I want them to be on. Don't argue with me about the days off. That's exactly how we have to have it, you know, unless there's a good reason. Like sometimes there'll be avails or whatever. But this, I knew really right away that it was going to be a logistic problem more than it was going to be anything else. And then when you take into consideration, it's 50 states. It doesn't have to necessarily be the best show in that state.
All right.
All you're doing is playing the state. So did a lot of research and figured out that in Alaska and Anchorage, there is one flight out of there at 2:00 in the morning. So
yeah, exactly.
We played our show, went straight to the airport and flew out of there. You know, it was really weird though. When I first approached our booking agent about it, because we get booked by William Morris, we have for the guy that we have now is this guy named Robbie Frazier, and we were the first band he booked at William Morris. It's been 25 years or more.
So and from Atlantic, you stay with William Morris after the breakup with Atlantic?
Yeah. We got
done.
We were on Atlantic, and then we had 2 guys before that both got fired from William Morris for being drug addicts and alcoholics. And then Robbie was like, we were the first band that he booked. And so we were like, great, we'll take it from there. And now he's a senior partner there, and he books Jack White and just a huge amount of people there. So, and he's never forgotten that we were the first band. And so as long as he wants to continue working with us, we'll do it. And he says he'll do it forever. So it's great. And like you said before, it's about this, you know, being loyal to the people who are cool to you. It's like, why did I go somewhere else? You know? But
that's the thing, Buzz. Having the ability to think long term.
Yeah.
Which is basically like, what is loyalty? I mean, loyalty actually could equally be as narcissistic and short-sighted in a weird human perception, but it's like, what are the calculations, if that's the thing? It's like, are you assessing what's the better calculation in a very objective, removed from human emotion point? But is the calculation wrong? Are you thinking long-term? Can you see ahead? Is it in your benefit not to get the quick buck? So
going back to music for just 1 second, I'm so curious about your coming solo record, Buzz, which is been delayed. What's the difference between the first one and the new one, acoustically?
Longer songs, and I have Trevor Dunn from Fantômas and Mr. Bungle playing stand-up bass on it.
Nice.
Yes. And I also added modular synth. A gigantic US tour planned. I mean, but
what a bummer.
1 second with the 5151. When I talked to Robbie about it originally, he was like, "That's crazy. It'll never work." You know, and I go, "No, we have to do it. I think it's a great idea." The next day he calls me and goes, "Okay, I'll talk to the people here. I think it's a great idea. Let's get on it." And then we realized really quickly that we can't let anybody know what we're doing, because then the promoters will know that they'll have us over a barrel. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you have to play Chicago on this day. You know what I mean? You can't change it because it has to be in a row. So we had this thing booked without telling any of the promoters over a year before we did it.
So Buzz, this is so funny because I've done in my little world like my own independent booking forever, and my mother would always say, because I get to these points where I'm a little stressed, nothing that's consuming me too much. It's like, I have all this shit, and she's like, I think you have a personal satisfaction in realizing these logistics, and that's where I'm kind of like coming to you with this. Is like there is, it's like a puzzle.
Tim is always looking for the solution. Tim is a solutionist, and he knows almost everything. So
besides being just a musician, there's all this other stuff. That 1 hour, those 2 hours are great, but then there's everything else, and then everything else before that, which is and then of course, if you can realize it and it falls in place, there's a huge satisfaction with that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love figuring out what to do, planning it, replanning it. I love all that stuff. I really dig it. I would say 70% of my waking hours are spent on figuring out how I'm going to hustle my way into making a living playing music.
So can I bring this to you? Because we've probably always, as you've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger with the success of your career and all that stuff, is there a point where it's like, wait a second, I need to bring down the admin point of my life to allow enough space for the artistic creative element? And I'm sure, I don't know, there's been points where you could spend your whole day only doing admin. Did you ever outsource things as that was evolving, or you know where I'm going with this? I don't have a manager. I never saw the point unless somebody could prove to me why it was going to be worth it and I was going to make that much more money as a result of them, or it was going to be that much cooler. I just never have had that. I have a bookkeeper who's really amazing. My wife is a graphic designer as well, and we work really closely on all that. And I have a great booking agent, and I have record labels that I can deal with. I don't really see why I would need. And if I need to go on the road, I'll hire a really good road manager to take care of all that stuff and to deal with the clubs. But the thing is with the clubs is that I've already worked out the deals with the booking agent. I know exactly what the deal is already because I want to. So I've never seen the reason why I should have a man. I've never seen any point. And if I have to talk to somebody's manager, I get irritated.
When people ask me what my advice is to young musicians, I'm like, don't do it. Keep it in the garage. If you don't have a vision, don't give it a sound. You have no idea how much effort has to go in keeping your neck above the gutter level with this kind of stuff. You've got no fucking clue what goes into it. And you know what? Apply your time to become a scientist, an architect, a chemist, a fireman, anything else, because you have to have such stamina, such fucking balls, such stubbornness. Again, it has to really be intrinsic to who you are to suffer the ridiculousness of day in, day out, trying to figure out just how to fucking pay the rent, and then going on the road for 1 great hour. People just don't understand what goes into this. So you know what, kids? Put the fucking guitar down, pick up the chemistry.
Well, by and large, you're right. I mean, it's you go somewhere like Guitar Center, and there's they'll sell 300 guitars, and not one of those people will ever make a nickel playing music. It's too hard to do. It's difficult. But, I'm not a 9-to-5 guy. I'm a much more than that. I've always said anyone who thinks that they can work 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, is going to wallow in hideous mediocrity for the rest of their lives.
I work from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Exactly.
Live that life, motherfuckers.
I don't know who came up with this 40 hours a week thing. It's like, now, what is a weekend?
I know. I mean, Industrial Revolution is when they started occupying our time differently and chopping it into consumable chunks to control us. It's bullshit.
Well, it's bullshit.
That's my issue with the European left, because I always viewed myself as a leftist, but the European left, specifically Scandinavian stuff, which I still enjoy quite a bit, is that it's in a weird way it's anti-individual. There are benefits to flattening, it's like compressions, like just flattening that out and all that stuff, but I don't know. I do want to work exactly. I want to work 1 million hours a week. I want to do whatever the fuck I want.
I've always been the pimp and the hoe. I shall continue.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. If I want to do 51 shows in 51 days, it's nobody's fucking business. I don't want anybody to tell me I can only work 40 hours a week. I didn't even know I wanted to work more than that until you told me I couldn't. It's like, fuck you guys.
Question for all the musicians here. So after this pandemic, when this hypothetical vaccine comes about, the floodgates of the few gigs that already exist, like everyone's planned their shows, and then suddenly it's like, and I'm talking to promoters who are saying like, I'm going to get high fucking acts on these low fucking clubs because the bigger money generating acts are going to be occupied. Everyone's going for the same fucking shit at the same time suddenly. How's that going to be fucking handled? I don't fucking know, but it's going to be definitely a surge.
Well, it'll happen for a little while, but you just wait it out. It's just like anything.
Yeah, that's what
inherently, musicians are pretty damn lazy. It's not hard to work harder than most of them,
Well, that's what Charles Warren, the serialist Pulitzer Prize winner, wrote. He's like, music? I can't believe how easy it is. I can't believe how actually apathetic musicians are.
Mostly, it's not hard to work. You can look like you really are very prolific if you're comparing yourself to almost nothing.
Right. Wow.
It's not hard to do. But I feel like, it's what I do and it's what I've done for a long time. And I'll work way harder at this than I would a normal job. And I like being my own boss. And I don't want to answer to anybody. It just irritates me. I don't want to hear it. I'm fine being in charge and taking the reins. And I'm okay with that. And my wife is a very strong woman who doesn't need me around. That was another thing that was really attractive to me. It was that she didn't need me at all. It's like, great. That's very attractive. And I'm gone. You're fine. Everything is great. And when we're together, it's a bigger thing. And I'm really into that. I'm really into the idea of independence and very much a Groucho Marxist in that I don't want to belong to any club that would have me as a member, on and on and on. It's like, I'm not the reason if people like us we left Europe, our descendants left Europe because we didn't want to take orders from anybody. We were willing to come over here and live in sod houses and eat shit because we weren't willing to take the crap that they were dishing out over in Europe. And if we returned to Europe at this point, we would rule everything because those people can't handle people.
I see that. I agree with you. And the three of us are independent. So then how do you deal with compassion for people that actually can't fend for themselves?
I think it's fine. Whatever, that's on an individual level, you should be able to do that. I don't like an institution telling me I have to do all that kind of stuff. I don't trust them to do it. I don't trust them to do a good job. I'll do a good job. I can take care of those around me. I will be okay with that. That's fine. But when somebody tells me at a point of a gun that has to happen, I'm not into it. If you owe me $50,000, no one's going to help me collect that money unless I go to the mafia. But if you owe the government $50,000, they will come and throw you in prison. That's how serious they are about debt.
On the flip,
I'm not into somebody telling me I have to do that sort of thing. I'm a very compassionate person, and I will do it. I don't trust you to do it.
Can I ask you this? If people who can't handle themselves, they can't find their own way, they can't function or figure out their own thing, and they're given a form of socialism, and they're given actually money for being, let's just say, incompetent, maybe not even reasonable. Would that bother you, or is that?
I'm going to cut that off right here because you know what? If there was more mandatory abortion and mass sterilization, there would be so many fucking needy people. There are too many people by billions, I have a lot of compassion, especially. All I can take care of is my immediate surroundings. Right. And I wish I could worry, and I do because I obsess, which is why I am a political artist, about the millions of people dying from floods and plagues, the millions of people in utmost poverty in this fucking country. We don't even know the number of. This country cannot take care of itself. We cannot take care of ourselves. We can't take care of our own fucking block. Take care of your own fucking house. Get your house in order. This is the Lydia and Spin, Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, Oz of the Melvins. Thank you very much. I don't know what else to say.